At 0603 hours, as the first grey light of dawn stretched across the coastline near Katcha airfield, the crew of a Kamov car 27M sat motionless inside their aircraft, rotors still, systems idling in standby. To the south, beyond the low ridgelines and the scattered rooftops of Sevastopol harbor, the sky was already alive with fire. 24 Ukrainian drones were slamming into defensive lines, forcing every Russian system in the region into action. The helicopter crew didn't react. They had seen this before. They knew the pattern. When the attack ended, they would lift off, sweep the coastline, and hunt for anything that slipped through. Surface drones, naval infiltrators, anything trying to exploit the chaos. Same route, same altitude, same corridor carved into routine through repetition and confidence. What they didn't know, what nobody in that chain of defense realized, was that a 25th drone had never intended to join the swarm. It was already in motion, and it was not heading toward the harbor. It was heading toward them, far to the south. As the first defensive line opened fire, the sky above Sevastopol erupted in streaks of burning tracer rounds. The heavy bark of ZU-232 batteries rolled across the rooftops as gunners locked onto dark shapes, cutting across the early morning sky. One operator acquired his target at 1,400 meters, a faint silhouette against the pale horizon, and squeezed both triggers. Twin barrels roared to life, sending a stream of 23mm rounds tearing into the air. The first burst missed. He corrected 2 mils to the right, a subtle adjustment translating into meters at that distance, and fired again. This time, the tracers converged. One round struck, then another. The drone disintegrated mid-air, fuel igniting in a violent orange bloom that lit the rooftops below like a flash of artificial sunrise. Across the defensive belt, other guns joined in. No radar locks, no computerized targeting, just human instinct and sheer volume of fire. Thousands of rounds per minute hammered upward into the swarm, barrels heating, metal expanding, accuracy drifting with every second of sustained fire. It was crude. It was inefficient. But it worked just enough. Another drone crossed the same gunner's sector before the smoke had even cleared. He swung the mount, reacquired, fired. The tracers curved, pulled slightly off course by heat distortion from the barrels. He corrected again, walking the rounds into the target until it clipped a wing and spiraled downward, trailing fire into an empty parking lot short of the harbor. Behind him, loaders dragged fresh ammunition into position. At this rate, entire supply loads vanished in minutes. One gunner, further down the line, ran dry mid-engagement. His weapon, spinning uselessly as a drone, slipped through his sector untouched, only to be destroyed seconds later by a 9K 333 Verba fired from a rooftop team. 40 seconds. That was all it took. But 40 seconds was an eternity when everything around you was exploding. While all eyes were drawn upward, tracking the chaos in the sky, the 25th drone moved unseen. 50 kilometers away, it skimmed low along a valley floor at barely 10 meters altitude. A compact FPV drone, its gray frame blending into the terrain. It never once broke the horizon line. From every angle, it presented nothing but ground behind it. No contrast, no silhouette, nothing for a gunner to lock onto. It was invisible not by technology, but by perspective. And it was not trying to get past the defenses. It was going somewhere else entirely. Out at sea, a Project 22160 patrol ship reacted to the incoming swarm with brutal efficiency. Its improvised air defense system, a land-based TOR missile system bolted onto the deck, where a helicopter pad once existed, tracked targets with mechanical precision. Missiles launched in rapid succession, each one finding its mark, turning incoming drones into falling debris over the Black Sea. The system worked flawlessly. It was designed to, but it was designed to look up. The lone FPV drone stayed below its radar horizon, hidden among terrain reflections and filtered out as background noise. To the system, it was no different than rock or hillside. Irrelevant. Ignored. 2 nights earlier, a Panzer S-1 unit had covered this exact gap, watching low angles, scanning for threats that hugged the ground. Ukraine had destroyed it, and now that absence had become a corridor. A corridor the drone was flying through, with precision measured not in luck, but in planning. Back over Sevastopol, the airspace turned into a chaotic storm of heat signatures. Verba teams fired into targets glowing against the sky. Their advanced seekers locking onto infrared, ultraviolet, and near-infrared signatures simultaneously. One missile struck clean at 1,100 meters, shredding a drone into burning fragments that rained down into residential streets. But the sky had become cluttered. Burning debris fell everywhere. Heat signatures overlapped. False targets filled every sensor. In that chaos, the lone FPV drone passed unnoticed, too low, too cool, too inconsistent to form a clean lock. Even electronic warfare systems, flooding the airwaves with jamming signals, nearly dismissed it. When interference spiked its control link, the drone faltered, its signal degrading, its feed dissolving into static. For a moment, it looked finished. On a Russian EW console, it was logged as suppressed. Another kill. Another checkmark. But the operator behind that signal hadn't let go. He switched to manual control at the edge of failure, guiding the drone beneath the noise floor, narrowing his transmission beam, forcing a fragile connection through the electronic chaos. For 2 seconds, his screen went black. He kept flying, blind. When the image returned, it was filled with treetops rushing upward. He corrected just in time, leveling out at 40 meters. The connection degraded but alive. Barely. Minutes later, the drone settled into a loiter above a quiet village, Komishi, a place with no military value, no defenses, nothing worth protecting, except its position, directly beneath the flight path between Katcha airfield and the coast. And so the operator waited. Fuel ticking down, time slipping away. 20 minutes passed. Then, finally, the radio chatter changed. A helicopter was spinning up. Back at Katcha, the routine resumed exactly as it always did. After every drone attack, a K-27M launched to sweep the coastline, ensuring no surface drones exploited the distraction. The aircraft lifted off, turned southwest, and settled into its familiar corridor. Predictable, reliable, exposed. The operator saw it first as 2 navigation lights cutting through the dawn. Then, the shape formed a low-flying silhouette, rotor blades beating the air in that unmistakable coaxial rhythm. Distance closed. 2 kilometers. 1,500 meters. The drone remained still, hugging the terrain, waiting for the precise moment when geometry, timing, and remaining fuel would align into a single, narrow opportunity. 1 kilometer. The helicopter roared overhead, its sensors focused outward, scanning the sea for threats that never came. 700 meters. The operator pushed the throttle. Nothing happened. The engine sputtered cold, starved after 40 minutes at idle. For a second, everything froze. The window began to collapse. 13 seconds. 12. 11. Then the motor caught. The drone surged forward. Now there was no room for hesitation. 500 meters. The helicopter grew large in the frame. The operator adjusted for latency, steering not where it was, but where it would be. 300 meters. Rotor wash began to buffet the drone, turbulence shaking it off course. 200. Fuel warning flashing. 30 seconds remaining. There would be no second attempt. 100 meters. The helicopter filled the screen, rotor blur, fuselage, open door. 70. 50. The drone was already closer than the feed showed. The operator made one final correction, 2 degrees right, and held steady. The impact came a fraction of a second later. Confirmed. 24 drones had forced every defense system to engage, to react, to believe the attack had been stopped. The 25th had never been part of that attack. It had been the plan all along.